This morning, Pope Francis's condition is, quote, improving slightly, but he remains in critical condition, according to the Vatican. Vatican officials tell us the Pope is not bedridden and is eating normally, as he does remain hospitalized battling pneumonia. To help us understand what all of this means and what it can mean for our own health, we're paging CNN chief medical correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta. The Pope initially, I think, hospitalized for bronchitis. Then it took a turn for the worse. Whenever you hear pneumonia in someone his age, what does that tell you?
It's obviously concerning. I mean, pneumonia is always concerning in someone of advanced age, and his late 80s, even more concerning. And keep in mind, as you look at this timeline, that the Pope has had a significant history of lung problems going back to, even childhood or young adulthood, when he had part of a lung removed for an infection at that point. Before February 14th, when he was hospitalized, we already got some indication that there were issues because he was having aides. His aides give talks for him, for example. He was having a hard time catching his breath well enough to do that, probably more upper respiratory at that point. But then by Valentine's Day, lower respiratory bronchitis. That's the sort of deep cough, that people will get. That's usually bronchitis. Then pneumonia a few days later. As you point out, slight improvement overall in his condition, but it's still pretty worrisome.
Yeah, because we already know that part of his lung, one of his lungs, has been removed years and years and years ago. What can you tell us about? He had an asthma attack as well, correct?
Yeah, so so people have a general understanding what asthma is. You think about it: exercise-induced asthma or cold-induced asthma. It's an inflammation of the airways that causes spasm of the airways. So just think about those airways. Normally you got air going in, air going out. They start to spasm like this as a result of an asthma, or in this case, an asthmatic crisis. Typically, that spasm's actually worse as you're exhaling, even more so than inhaling. But all of that, basically, first of all, is very uncomfortable, but makes it harder for you to actually exchange air in your lungs. So that's concerning. On top of pneumonia, which already is this infection of the lungs, now you get the asthmatic crisis on top of that. And I think that's what really had people worried in particular over the weekend. You can give medications to sort of decrease that spasm of those airways, and you also give more oxygen. And you're familiar with these nasal cannulas. You see the two prongs that go inside the nose. You can give high flow oxygen through those nasal cannulas, 60 liters of oxygen. It's so much oxygen so quickly that you have to warm that oxygen, you have to humidify that oxygen because it can be very drying. So it's quite, it can really accomplish a lot, but that's what he's required as well. Dealing with the pneumonia, dealing with the asthmatic crisis, giving high flow oxygen, again, in the wake of someone who has part of their lung removed and is, in his late 80s.
Why did he have a blood transfusion? What was that for?
There's two things there, and this is an important thing, because you think lung infection, what does that have to do with blood transfusion? So there's two things. First of all, if you give red blood cells are what carry oxygen throughout the body. So the more red blood cells you can have, you want to make sure that level does not drop. That improves the opportunity to transport oxygen throughout the body. But there was something else as well, and that is something known as platelets. Platelets are another blood component responsible for your clotting. People's platelets may sometimes drop as an early indication that they're starting to develop a more widespread infection. Platelets start to get consumed in the body. So no one is saying that the Pope has sepsis, which is a sort of body-wide infection, but that is the concern, Sarah. That is the big concern here. Obviously the pneumonia, which is what they call polymicrobial, many different organisms sort of causing that pneumonia. But the idea that it could spread into the blood and spread into the rest of the body is the concern. And so you look for clues. Are the platelets dropping? Are there other indications of that? And you try and get on top of it as quickly as possible. So that's certainly something the doctors are going to be monitoring, and if we get more information about that, we'll bring it to you as well.
I always feel 1,000 times smarter after listening to you. and then I completely forget everything that was said. So maybe I should write it
Call
down.
me, I'll remind you.
Yeah, I need some of your big, beautiful brain. That's all I'm saying, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to have you on this morning. And don't forget to scan the QR code on your screen and head to CNN.com to send us your questions about pneumonia. Dr. Gupta will be back later this week to answer your questions.
Catholics filled St. Peter's Square Monday as the Vatican held its first nightly prayer service for Pope Francis, who is fighting double pneumonia in hospital. This is now his 12th day there, the longest hospital stay of his papacy. Well, CNN's Ben Wiedemann joining us now live from Rome. Good morning to you, Ben. What more are you hearing then, Ben, of his condition overnight?
Yeah, Christina, we just got a one-line statement from the Vatican press office saying that Pope Francis rested well all night. No further details this morning from the Vatican. But what we heard yesterday from the Vatican press office yesterday evening is that even though the Pope remains in critical condition, he is showing a slight improvement, that apparently he's continuing to receive oxygen after Saturday's asthmatic attack, but at a lower level and a lower concentration of oxygen, that even though he does have kidney issues, that they are not a cause for concern at this point. Now, they said that he continues to eat well, that the Pope is not bedridden, and that he is, quote, in good humor. That's what we heard yesterday. We also know that yesterday evening he was on the phone with the parish priest in Gaza, something he's been trying to do every night since the war there began. Christina?
And Ben, we've obviously seen millions of Catholics around the world praying for the Pope's recovery. But how is it being felt there in Rome? What is the mood like?
Well, certainly it is. His health is the top story in the Italian newspapers, noting that thousands of people braved the rain and the cold last night to go out to St. Peter's Square to pray for his health. This is a man who's very popular in Italy, keeping in mind that even though he's from Argentina, he's of Italian origin, so many people here feel very close to him. And also keep in mind that in this time where politics is increasingly nasty and divisive, this is a man who is focused on decency, kindness. He's very humble, so he's very well loved here in Italy. So for instance, the news broadcasts here always lead with updates on his health. People follow it very closely, and he is a genuinely well-loved person among ordinary Italians. So the level of concern is quite high. The hope is that even though this is his longest hospital stay, 12 days so far, that he will somehow improve and go back to functioning as a normal Pope from the Vatican. Christina?
We will, of course, continue to follow this. But for now, Ben Wiedemann in Rome. Thanks, Ben.